I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, where you get the thing you've always wanted, and then as soon as you get it, you realize it's not exactly what you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Been there, done that.
You've been there, done that. It kind of seems to be like Richard Koch, one of my favorite authors. He wrote the 80-20 principle. He said the way that people lose the race is they win a race that they never wanted to run in the first place.
Right.
If the only times that I call you are times when I ask you, who do you know that wants to buy or sell, would you really believe that I have your best interest at heart? Probably not. And so no matter what story I'm telling, you're not believing it. And then I always leave this one for last. This is authenticity.
Welcome everybody. Another amazing team that we're bringing over to you. And they're just, I'm interested in what they do. So I'm going to welcome our guest. But before I do that, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about who he is. Taylor Welch. Did I say that right, Taylor?
Yep, Welch.
Awesome. So Taylor Welch. But before I even do that, furthermore, everybody who's here, please tell us city and state where you're from. We would love to know where you're from, where you're connecting with us. Right in the chat box, if you can tell us city and state, that would be awesome. And in the meantime, like I said, oh, look, we're getting some people telling us Spring Hill, Tennessee, right? Welcome, Dane. Thank you so much. I believe we have a couple more people joining in. So while we have these people joining in, I'm just going to really quickly talk about Taylor. Taylor is the founder and CEO of a portfolio of online brands, making the world happier and smarter. That's awesome. That's what we need right now in the world, Taylor. So thank you. Since his first company in 2015, he has helped over 150,000 individual customers and clients grow their business or grow their influence and their profits. That's awesome. That's amazing. I'm all for it here. Today, he specializes in helping experts transition from the full-time workplace to part-time consulting, amazing, using an array of proprietary models and framework. Welcome, Taylor, and tell us a little bit about all of this good stuff you got going.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you for saying so many nice things about me. It's awesome to be here, and it's awesome to share a little bit of my story and a little bit of how I've advanced and planning on continuing to advance, especially in the time and era that we live in. And I believe that there's more opportunity now than there's ever been, ever. But there's also more problems. There's more access. Social media did this weird thing. All of a sudden, if you wake up in Spring Hill, Tennessee, like Dane, you start seeing the problems of the world on the other side of the globe, and we're connected and we're constantly, you see this in the news and you see it on Facebook and you see it on YouTube, and it's like almost people seem to be incentivized to share drama and to share bad news. And so I believe that it is more important than ever to guard your thinking and to learn how to develop these principles in your life so that you can go out and you can cut through the noise and cut through the resistance to ultimately not only be successful, but to help other people be successful as well. And so, my story was pretty boring. I was very jealous of the people who started a business when they were 2 years old. And I'll never forget, I was listening one time to somebody online. They were like, they started their first business when they were like 11, selling lemonade. And I was like, man, I never got that opportunity. Like, what I wanted to be when I was growing up was a preacher and a cowboy. And so what I decided to do, very innovative, is I just squished the two together. I said, I'm gonna be a cowboy preacher and I'm only going to preach to cowboys. And, that was my dream as a kid. I wanted to grow up and work at a church. And I grew up in church world and church life. And so I got that opportunity. And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, where you get the thing you've always wanted, and then as soon as you get it, you realize it's not exactly what you want.
Absolutely. Been there, done that.
You've been there, done that. It kind of seems to be like Richard Koch, one of my favorite authors. He wrote the 80-20 principle. He said the way that people lose the race is they win a race that they never wanted to run in the first place. I was
Right.
like, wow, that's profound. You know, we're all on this like social media dopamine hit, trying to keep up with everybody. And when you get it, it's funny how usually it's like you never really wanted the thing in the first place. So I got this, and my wife, whose name is Lindsay, we have a beautiful 3.5-year-old daughter. We have a son on the way. And
Oh,
my wife at the time,
congratulations.
thank you so much. Thank you. She sat down with me. We were on a date. We got paid about $18,000 a year at the church. And so we could afford once a month, we would go out to eat. And we went to a place called Ruby Tuesdays down in the South.
Yep.
And we sat down and Ruby Tuesdays had like a free salad bar that you could get when you
Yep.
ordered food. And so we would go there because it's free salad bar. We can eat as much salad and croutons and all the stuff that you want. It shows the level that we were at the time. And my wife is like, babe, something's got to change. You've got to change something because you're working 100 hours a week and we're struggling. And my wife was actually an entrepreneur when we met. She was a hairstylist. She owned a salon, and I moved her to Memphis, Tennessee because I got a job at the church and she had to start over her salon. And so I'm in a position where I feel responsible for our lack, and she's like, you got to change something because I'm not making money. You're not making money. We're in a position where we never see each other. And, on our honeymoon, we basically slept the whole time on our honeymoon. And so I said, okay, all right, let's do it. I'll
Let's
transition
change
out.
something.
We got to change something.
Right.
And I transitioned off staff at the church, and I stumbled accidentally into real estate. And that was my first exposure to the world of real estate. And I was doing property management. Property management, as you know, is like the bottom of real estate in most cases. You start there, but you don't want to always stay there. And so I got up to speed in this real estate company. We managed 6,000 houses in Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow.
I got into that business. I learned the business. I started growing up inside of the organization. And before long, the owners of the organization noticed that I had a knack for patterns and systems, and I could see how things worked and put them together. And this is going to be important when we talk about it a little bit later on. Everyone has a competitive advantage. Everybody's got a personality that is, calling or something that they enjoy. And my competitive advantage tends to be patterns. I can notice things that are always this way. You can tell that something's a principle or a pattern because it's fractal. You can take it down to the studs and down a level and down a level. And it seems to be true everywhere you go. And they promoted me to running pieces of the marketing for the real estate company. And it was about 6 months after that promotion happened, that I started taking clients because I was really good.
Wow.
I didn't go to school for marketing. I didn't study in college for marketing. I started buying books and I started picking up the skill set on the side. And I developed the ability to get the patterns. I started seeing what worked and what didn't work. I started marketing for my wife. She got flooded with clients, couldn't handle any more clients. And then I had to find an outlet to continue growing. So I sat down with the owner of the real estate company and I said, this is what's happening. I'm making about 40 grand a year here. And I'm making about 20 grand a month on the side on Saturday mornings. And so I got to figure out how to make a change. And he could tell, he recognized the entrepreneurship in me. And so he said, well, I think it's time for you to transition out. And let me give you some advice. He said, don't sacrifice the family for the money.
Don't sacrifice the family for the money.
But this doesn't sound like, this is an old grumpy person who's worked his entire life. He's on his third family. I'm like, what are you talking about right now? Like, this doesn't sound like you at all. He said, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Now get out of my office. Thanks for everything you did. And he just he became human for a second, and then he was back into Terminator mode. That was kind of my first, like, oh, okay. That was the first time I recognized that this could actually be a risk, because I never thought about it up until then, that there was this dichotomy at times between being healthy and growing and being successful. And so many people chasing just the outcomes of success. They just want to be famous, and they want to be rich. They want all these things. But one of the things that I tell people today is the definition of success to me is that the people closest to me love me and respect me. Your reputation is what your kids say about you when you're gone. You want to take it sooner. Like, this is what your kids say about you now.
Right.
And so we don't actually focus on the things that matter. We turn the games into wars and the wars into games, and we get things confused. And so my greatest success ever up to this point is having a healthy marriage. My wife shines when she is around me, and I shine when I'm around her. My daughter, Kate, is healthy and happy and brilliant. She, as an aside, she slept in a big girl bed for the first time the other night. So
Yay.
it's been a hard week for daddy and mommy, but we're okay. Everything's good. And the reason that I'm here is because I feel like I want to prevent people from going down the path of having to choose and pick, and it's one or the other, and society forces this dichotomy onto us of like, you need to sacrifice everything for success, and people get obsessed with the wrong things. And so I'm here to teach you kind of what I learned. The story after I left the real estate company, I went from 0 to 6 figures in the first year. I went from 6 to 7 figures the next year. I went from 7 to 8 figures a year after that. And in 2020, I hit 9 figures, and it was just grow. But along the way, I felt the temptation of like, okay, I'm becoming obsessed with the wrong things, and we can get into that later. But the point of this is to kind of teach people. Look, I'm probably a lot like you, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older, maybe I have a little bit more money or a little bit less money. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there is a way that humans are wired to be, through evolution, through society, through culture. And so the point of me being here, and the whole point of the law of self-equity, this is real estate people, right? Talking about
Yes.
real estate professionals. We talk
Yes.
about equity all the time. Like,
All the
how much
time.
equity is in that? What's the spread in that? What's your LTV? What's your DP?
What's your ROI?
Yeah, exactly. The number one equity, the biggest piece of equity that you can build is actually your reputation with yourself and with the people that matter most to you. And all of the trappings of success come along with that. The money, the cars, the houses, the apartment buildings. I own a commercial real estate company today, and we're building condo neighborhoods in Nashville and in Branson, Missouri, and all over the place. And I'm very concerned about the equity in those houses. I want to know what the equity is, but I'm not as concerned with that equity as I am the equity I have with myself. Do I trust myself? Am I capable and worthy of the trust that I place in myself? And so the good news is that when it comes to human beings, this is universally applicable. Okay. Like how you build equity with yourself is universally applicable. It doesn't matter your race, your culture, or where you grew up, where you went to school. The brain tends to prioritize similar things because we're all humans. And so the point of this is I want to end this having given you a blueprint or a template and a couple of principles that have been pulled from the greatest men and women in history for us to model, because the next couple of months and years are going to be a little bit choppy. The recession, the dirty R word, we're already in one.
Yes, the way things are going in real estate, I think there is. Yeah, I would love to know some of the principles as well.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And there's a lot of people that aren't going to be here.
True. A lot of
And
realtors are going to move
what's
out.
the difference maker? What's the difference maker? Well, it's not always your level of intellect. Most of the time, it's your level of identity and how you think about yourself and the world around you. So, full transparency, we do have a product that teaches this in detail. So there's pros and cons to being here. And if you got yourself caught on this webinar, or you're watching the Facebook Live or whatever, there are some pros and cons. Okay. Like the pro is I will unlock you like in a moment. Like you'll never be able to think the same way. And if you ever get the opportunity to be in a room with me or with my team, it's the same thing. People are like, what is going on in this room? Nothing's impossible. Nothing's off limits. There's a level of thinking and energy that supersedes circumstances. And so that's the pro. One of the cons is it's impossible for me to download everything in 45 minutes. And so what I started doing is we created a product, and it's called the Arena. Somebody say Arena, throw it in the chat. Arena, ARENA. It comes from the infamous quote that it's the man in the arena that counts, marred with blood and sweat and dirt. They're actually working. Well, every day you wake up and you go into the arena of your own making and you fight it out. You're pushing your business forward. You're pushing your company forward. You're growing your family. Life is the arena. And so this product is called the Arena. And every week we go through series and we document the traumas and failures and perspectives and lessons and successes of the best leaders in history: Amelia Earhart, Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Winston Churchill. In fact, we just completed a series on Winston Churchill, and we basically went through this man's life, and this man's life was hard. like way harder than anybody else's life on this call. I guarantee it. I can literally guarantee with absolute certainty that you've likely never had to make a decision to kill 3 million people if you make this call, or kill 4 million people if you make that call. There probably nobody on this call has gone through that level of trauma. And so sometimes it's just an issue of perspective. And so if you get to the end of this and you find value in it, or even if you know you have value in it now, you can find out details about this. It's wealthyconsultant.com/thearena. And Dane or somebody can throw that in, wealthyconsultant.com/thearena. You can read about what it's all about and how this will impact you for positive momentum in your business. So let's get into some of these principles.
And I was left at a yard sale when I was just over 12 weeks old.
Oh my gosh.
And
let's mute that. Hold on 1 second. Okay, there's someone. Okay, go ahead, Taylor.
I mean, I kind of wanted to hear about the garage sale. Some good tactics.
Yeah.
You ready to dive in? Let's dive in. Let's
dive in. Yep. Let's talk about the wealth, and let's talk about the arena. Definitely. And some of the principles that you shared earlier too.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that.
Okay.
Like I said, we're building in Nashville. We've got about $14 million of condos going up in Nashville, 15 to 20 in Branson. I just talked with a friend of mine who he just got back from Munich. He was meeting with Deutsche Bank in Munich. He's just bought about $32 million in Destin. And we got to talking about like the way that the world is kind of handling this recession. First of all, it's like they're not really even talking about it, but again, like it's going to get a little bit choppy here for a minute. And so some of these principles are designed to help you focus on the right things, the things you can control, avoid the things that you cannot control so that you can persevere. Some of you are going to be here in 3 years and you're going to be like winning. Some of you will not be here in 3 years because you lost. And I want you to just know and accept this. Like the difference is not your circumstances. The difference between those two people is the way you think, the way you process information, and ultimately what you focus on. So if you can hack this, you're going to be successful, whether it's a good economy or a bad economy. And so the first thing we'll talk about, the first principle of sorts, the mind has razor sharp defense mechanisms. The mind will feed you only the things that it feels are important to you. So let's talk about evolution for a second. We had obviously tribes of human beings that roamed the planet years ago. And one of the things to think about is if you belong to one of these tribes and you were excommunicated from the tribe, you died. You didn't have it. You didn't stand a chance. How did you fit into the tribe? Well, the things that you said and the clothes that you wore and whether you contributed to the tribe or not. And so we have all of these evolutionary thoughts, and people talk about insecurity and they talk about fear. And if any of you have ever not dealt with insecurity, you're a robot. Like I want you to teach me how you figured it out. But the truth is all of us deal with fear. All of us deal with insecurity. All of us at some point wonder, am I good enough? Did I do the right thing? And sometimes the most important thing for you to note is that as you think, you tell your brain what's important to you. It gets into the realm of the subconscious and the subconscious mind, which is like, if you've seen those pictures of the iceberg where it's like the massive float underneath the water versus the small piece that you can see. Your conscious mind is a small piece of your computing power. Your subconscious mind is what's really out there gathering the facts. And so write this down. This is a principle. Your thoughts must be worthy of you and worthy of your mission. Your thoughts must be worthy of you and worthy of your mission, or you must expel them.
That's a good one. That's a real good one.
What happens when you take a person who has a big mission and they have little thoughts that slowly begin to pester them and they don't deal with those thoughts? And then over time, you see people with such potential in the chapters of their lives that mattered most, having not accomplished what they felt called to accomplish. It turns into regret. It turns into shame. The point of the arena and the point of the work that we do with clients all over the world in all sorts of industries, and we've got brokers and agents and entrepreneurs and marketers and small business owners from all over the world. And when you get into the realm of thinking and the realm of thought, the idea is to guard your thinking in two areas. The area that is, first of all, most important is yourself. How do you think about yourself? And then category number 2 is everything else. And I was on a call one time with a group of clients, and we were talking about how do you guard the way you think about yourself? How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with setbacks? How do you guard the thoughts you have? It's really easy for you to say this, Taylor, like your thoughts must be worthy, blah, blah, blah. But how do you actually do it? And for me, it's very helpful to really organize and segment. There's 3 different areas in a person's life as it pertains to how do you think about yourself. There are 3 areas we can break this down into. And this is simple once you think about it, but nobody thinks about it. Your past, your current, and your future. What else is there?
The now, your past, your future, the present. There you go. Yeah.
That's it. That's all 3 of them. And so when we get down into it, when somebody does not control their thinking in regards to their past, they feel regret.
Mhm.
When someone does not control their thinking in regards to their current, they feel shame. And when someone does not control their thinking in regards to their future, they feel anxiety
Mhm.
and angst. And so you can use this as a model, and you can see what I'm saying. Like, it's going to take a little bit for this to settle in.
Right.
These are simple topics with profound implications, but you can use this as a model. Where am I feeling anxious? Where am I feeling shame? Where am I feeling regret? As a barometer to kind of organize, here's where I need to control my thinking and make sure my thoughts are worthy of me and my mission. And so part of the reason we have arenas, we dial these 3 things into lethal perfection. We tune them up weekly. We make sure that the mind and the thoughts and the way that you feel about yourself is optimal. Here's principle number 2. I'm just going to keep rolling through them. Principle number 2, create the outcome, then remove the doubt. There is 0 room for your doubt if you are going to achieve big things and accomplish big things. 0. Notice I say create the outcome and then remove the doubt.
These are some great principles, by the way. I mean, I've read so many books, Taylor, and these are some of the principles that are very similarly put in other books as well. This is really, really good. Where did you come up with all this?
The Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln and
Oh,
these, like when it comes down to this principle in particular, I'll just tell you I pulled it out when studying Winston Churchill.
that's so
There was
cool.
a in World War II when Churchill was trying to rally England to fight Hitler. There was a moment everyone thought that France, if you ask everybody in World War II area who's the number 1 superpower in the world, they say France. Nobody knows. United States is not the pound for pound champion of the world. France was what the USA was in the 1930s. In World War I, the French military held the German lines by themselves almost for 4 years. By themselves. And many historians say that the World War I German army was actually superior than the World War II German army, and France is just holding them. And so when you get to World War II, people are like, France is going to attack. France will deal with Hitler. France will handle it. They handled World War I. They'll handle World War II. They have the most advanced military, the most advanced tech, the most advanced weaponry. They have the highest defense spending in the world. And Hitler beats France in 3 weeks. Just clobbers them. And so the world is reeling, and like, what in the world is happening right now? You can picture the movie Batman when he fights Bane and Batman gets his back broken. Everyone in the movie is just like, oh my God, they've never seen a hero dismantled. That's not supposed to be this way. And Churchill's watching this all, and he has to make a decision. France is falling. Do I go to France and send military units to France to help France stay afloat because France was our greatest shot at stopping Hitler? Or do I keep the military home so that we don't get invaded? Well, how many of you have had to make a decision on that level before? I haven't.
Nope.
And we're complaining about rates right now. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, the rates suck, but like, we're not at this place where we are literally and physically backed into a corner having to make a decision. Do I let my closest ally fall, or do I protect ourselves from invasion? And so what Churchill does is he sends a question to his leaders, and he says, I need to know just the minimum amount of air force we need inside of England to protect us against invasion. Not a plane more. Just give me the squadron count. And they give it to him, and he keeps that, and then he sends the rest to France. And so what you see in Winston Churchill is Winston Churchill was the king at being able to isolate what is my worst case scenario here. Let me create the outcome that I want to see given the resources that I have. And then doubt is out the window. And you have the famous speech, we'll fight in the streets, we'll fight in the grounds, we'll bleed out on the side of the road. Like we'll fight and fight and fight and fight until we prevail. And so you see this leader who has absolute certainty because he's done the work to create the outcomes that he wants. And it's funny to me, it's not funny, it's sad to me that we have people in today's era, today's age, who are giving up because of a rate increase, but they've got so much doubt and so much uncertainty. What it really comes down to is you lack perspective around the problems of old and the people of old that have been through worse trauma and worse chaos, and therefore you do not have certainty in yourself. There's a principle. Create outcome, then remove the doubt. And some of you probably listening to this are like, well, I don't want to bury my head in the sand. It's not burying your head in the sand. You create the outcome, you remove the doubt. Create the outcome, remove the doubt. And when you're creating the outcome, that's the moment you explore all the downsides. When you're creating the outcome, that's the moment you explore what's the least amount that I need, and you prepare the plan. Does that make sense? Cool.
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
You want to keep going? Let's keep going.
Yep.
Failure to fuel, pressure into power. Failure into fuel, pressure into power. What we want sometimes is people wish for an easy life and they optimize their life for safety and they die. The central nervous system shuts down, you retire. And it's not a coincidence that deaths are correlated to retirement age by a couple of years. We remove the things that keep us vibrant. And unfortunately, the things that keep us vibrant are problems, setbacks, failures. How many of you know Abraham Lincoln? How many of you have ever heard that name? Hopefully everybody.
Me, right here.
More books have been written by about Abraham Lincoln than any other American president. And let me tell you what happened in Abraham Lincoln's first 29 years of trying to advance and move forward. He started his first business in 1831, and it fails. In 1832, he was defeated for legislature. In 1833, he failed a second business, not one, not two. How many of you ever failed two businesses? That's okay. Lincoln did it. You're going to be fine. Settle down. You're going to be okay. 1836, he suffered his first traumatic mental breakdown. And what I failed to talk about earlier when I was teaching this in the arena, by the way, all this material is coming from the arena. We teach on this every single week. So I'm not making this up on the fly. This is like material I'm taking from training on Abraham Lincoln and Winston Churchill. And the year before his first mental breakdown, his fiance died. And so he's just bam, bam, bam. It gets worse. 1838, he's defeated for speaker. 1840, defeated for elector. 1843, defeated for congressional nomination. And then in 1846, finally, he's elected for Congress. And then he's voted right back out of Congress in 1848. Then in 1855, he's defeated for Senate. In 1856, he's defeated for vice president. In 1859, he's defeated for Senate. And finally, in 1860, he's elected president of the United States. What does this tell you? There's 29 years of failure with one win in between to break it up. Here's the thing. When you look at the lives and profiles of like the people who we all remember, the leaders, the movers, the shakers, their lives had setbacks and trauma and failure and obstacles. And how many times do we miss out on the breakthrough because we're stuck complaining about the bottleneck, complaining about the problem? Let me tell you this. It's impossible for you to create solutions for your problems by simultaneously complaining about them. You'll never do it. You want to figure out a way to push forward inside of a market like today? Stop complaining about it. That's one of the first steps. You want the first step to being able to thrive while everyone else is struggling? Stop complaining about the Fed. Stop complaining about Biden. Stop complaining. Like you can't create solutions when you are constantly teaching your minds. remember the first principle, the mind will feed you what it feels like is most important, right?
Mhm.
When we spend all of our time complaining, our mind goes, okay, Taylor thinks this is important. So I'm going to go find all of the things that are backing up what he's complaining about, and I'm going to feed that to him. And then all of the things that don't line up with this negative narration, I'm going to expel, and he'll never know. This is what the subconscious does. And so we spend all of our time complaining and focusing on the problems. Our brain goes, you know what? If anything is not a problem, I'm not going to bring it to his attention. And anything that is a problem, I'm going to elevate it because it's obviously important to him. Well, what happens when you switch that around? Is I'm not going to spend any time talking about the problem. I'm going to spend all of the time talking about solutions. Your brain reverses it around and it goes, yeah, this sounds like a problem. It doesn't matter. This sounds like a solution and opportunity. I'm going to bump that up. You know, they did a study on this where they actually polled and it did blind experiments on people who felt like they were lucky versus people who felt like they were unlucky. This is in a book called, it's Sean Aker who wrote it. It's about positive psychology. And they found that the people who said that they were lucky were actually more lucky than the people who felt like they were unlucky.
Hmm.
And they did these studies where it's like you rolling through a book and there's like hidden money in the book. And the people who were lucky found the money and grabbed it. The people who were unlucky didn't even see it.
Right.
Because your subconscious finds the things that backs up your narrative.
And it's what you say to yourself, right? There's something that you
100%.
said, it's what you say, your self-talk matters. And and the link is right there, you guys, for audiences out there. A good one. Obviously, you can watch Taylor's webinar if you need to go early. It is on our LCA, YouTube channel as well. One thing I really want to share with you guys also is that the link that we got up there about where can I find that link? Okay, wealthyconsultant.com/the arena. Check it out. You know, if there's anything you guys want to know more about Taylor, that's where they can find information, right, Taylor?
Yeah, that'll give you information about the arena, what it is, how it
Okay.
works. It's a weekly coaching session, and we have myself and a small faculty of people, and we just take you through the lives, and we teach you how to think positively and to actually navigate difficult situations. Is really what I would call it is performance training. How do you optimize yourself to perform at the highest level? We have
And
a
how you
private
train your
podcast and a
mind.
bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And how you really train your mind. Because when what we focus on expands, we always say that to ourselves. And you said something right here is that what you focus on, you know, you train your mind to think success, then you will be successful, right? It's how to train your mind is what you're going to find. I think it's amazing. There's several coaches out there that can help you as well with Taylor. Am I understanding that correct, Taylor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Alrighty, well, we're right around the corner of finishing up, wrapping this up. Is there anything of importance that you want to share as well?
I mean, the last thing is when leaders know, they know, and they move. And so when you study the Cuban Missile Crisis and different things, there are two situations that people get themselves into. The first is they don't fully know, and the second is they know. This might sound a little ethereal, but I think that there are some people on the call right now. You're probably facing a decision in your life that you know, but you don't want to know. You don't want to actually move forward. Painful.
You don't want to face the music.
You don't want to face the music. You know that person's not good for you, but you grew up with them and they were there for you back in the past. And so you know, but you don't want to know, right? And so it's important for you to get yourself to the place where you can commit more to a future version of yourself that you've decided you want to be than the current or past version of yourself that makes you feel comfortable. Every period of growth that I've ever experienced in my life is when I jumped into something uncomfortable and I jumped out of something comfortable. Always. I've never had a period of massive growth staying in something comfortable.
Yeah, very true.
So this is the last point, the last principle. If you have any questions, we can hit them. I'm on social everywhere. You can hit me on Twitter, Taylor A. Welch is user, Instagram, Taylor A. Welch, Facebook, Taylor A. Welch. Obviously, visit the link. We'd love to have you. If you want to hang out, if you want to make more money, if you want to grow, if you want to be a better partner, producer, friend, winner, any of the above, we'd love to have you in there. And if there's anything that I can do for you guys, just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor. We appreciate you being here on LabCoatAgents, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Talk soon. Bye-bye.